And welcome back to our year-end edition of This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts, Nashville Democratic State Representative Brenda Gilmore and syndicated conservative talk show host Steve Gill. Welcome and Happy New Year, guys.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
You've lived through the events as we all watched it go by this year. From your perspective, what was the big local event that was maybe the #1 political event this year?
Well, of course, I think the #1 event was the election of Speaker Kent Williams.
It was a big surprise.
Yes, to lead our House, and I think he did. Actually, I think he's done a pretty good job. He divided the committees, exactly the same amount of Republicans as in Democrats, which absolutely forced us to work more in a nonpartisan manner, to reach across the aisles and work on legislations that would be good for the citizen. So I would say that that would have to have been #1. And he also appointed for the first time 2 females, Republican females, to chair major and full committees, Representative Beth Harwell and Representative Susan Lynn.
I'd say that was certainly a big one, and was one of the surprising ones in the front of the year. I think at the end of the year, it's the retirement of John Tanner and Bart Gordon that has kind of created a domino effect that we may see flow into this year, as you've got state senators and other legislators looking at those races, and you always see a domino effect in politics. It causes, as Gus Hargett pointed out, when he retires, others move up.
Sure.
The same thing happens in politics. I think the beginning of the year, certainly Kent Williams being elected as the Speaker was the big story, but I think what it made is that from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, it was a chaotic year in politics. Normally you expect after a presidential year, a big election year, everybody's got a chance to catch their breath. This was not a breath-catching year, and 2010 is not going to be any better.
I was going to say, as we look back, we look forward in the same breath, because 2010 is really going to be chaotic. It's an election year. We're going to have a new governor. At least 3 House members to the U.S. House are going to be elected, so it's going to be a very busy year election-wise.
It will be, and I think 2010 is also going to offer a lot of challenges. Whoever is in charge, whether it's the R's or the D's next year, will be responsible for redistricting and redrawing the lines. So that's just going to be a huge issue that we'll have.
Big fight.
Yes, to say it politely. So that will be a ripple effect, both on the national level as well as the local level. We'll see some effect. So that will be a big one for us.
Yeah, I think the elections, at the state house, state senate level, become even more important, because the winner does kind of take all in terms of doing those redistricting lines and maybe tweaking and moving the numbers a little bit more. I think the other one, as we look ahead, has to be the finances. You talked a little bit about it in terms of the year past. It's going to be worse. We were able to get a little bit of a Band-Aid with the stimulus money this past year. There is no Band-Aid. There is no safety net. Brenda and her colleagues in the legislature are going to have an extraordinarily tough time with an economy that shows no signs at this point of rebounding in any sort of dramatic way. It is going to be a tough year. So you add the contentiousness of the political arena with the difficulties of the policy arena. I don't burden you. I mean, I don't look forward to what you got this year.
And it's a re-election year for you guys too, because everybody's going to want to get out of there quickly, and you're going to have a lot on your plate.
You're right. All 99 House members will be up for election, and probably half as members, about 17 members over in the Senate side. So a lot of elections, lots of walking and knocking on doors next year. Our budget will continue to be a challenge next year. Already we've reduced state roles. We're beginning to see programs really in jeopardy, especially those dealing with our children and our correctional department, talking about maybe releasing some prisoners. So I think that's going to be a challenge. It looks like I'm beginning to see, and I hope it turned out to be true, that there has been some improvements in the economy. In Tennessee, the unemployment has not gone up for the last 2 months. We've seen it be pretty steady. For the first time in over 2 years across the country, we're beginning to see housing starts begins to show some improvements. So I think that there are some glimmers of hope. I certainly hope by spring of next year that we begin to see some improvement in the economy and that we get people back to work. That's a big concern of mine.
Well, and obviously there was some good news in the Chattanooga area and in Clarksville, as you pointed out. They had something like 6,000 people apply for the 1,500 to 2,000 jobs at Volkswagen in Chattanooga. So clearly there's a huge pent-up demand for the jobs. But we're going to see in Middle Tennessee the struggle that we're going to see in Spring Hill, because it's not just the jobs that have been lost at the plant, but all those sort of ripple effects of the McDonald's and the Wendy's and the construction and the house sales that all slow down and contract as well. I think Middle Tennessee is going to certainly feel some pain for a time to come down in that Columbia Spring Hill area.
With the stimulus money running out halfway through next year, you're really going to be challenged, as you talked about, with that budget. And the governor's all but said, and it seems there just is no more fat to cut, that it's going to likely mean layoffs, and you're going to have the tough job of deciding who gets laid off, what departments, and how many.
Exactly. And we probably won't see very many new programs. The governor has given some indications that he really wants to ramp up education. And, in fact, we'll be called back into special session on January 12th to talk about that education and an opportunity maybe to pull down some federal funds as we try to improve college graduation rates and reduce high school dropout rates. So we will see some attention given to that. We will continue to talk about guns and abortion next year. That consumed an awful lot of time in Tennessee, not only in the state legislature, but just generally people talking about it in grocery stores and in doctor's office. Guns, the sponsors have indicated they're going to come back again with just as much vigor and passion. We've seen from surveys that have been conducted that most Tennesseans do not want to see guns in bars or parks. However, those sponsors seem pretty committed to bring them back and try it again.
Yeah, I think the other big issue that we're going to see in the legislature is going to revolve around education. As Brenda pointed out, you're going to have that special session right at the start focused on trying to draw down about $400 million in new education funds for Tennessee. The teachers' unions are opposing new standards being applied to pay teachers more money who meet certain standards, sort of a merit pay process. I think, frankly, for Governor Phil Bredesen, his advantage is he's got a Republican majority in the House and the Senate, and you're probably going to get the kind of merit pay increases that are needed to get that federal money coming down the pike. The other big issue education-wise, I think, is going to be what happens with the lottery. We're running into a shortfall in lottery funds, and the legislature is going to have to decide, do we pare back on giving a lot of money to a lot of people who aren't making it in college, or do we continue to fund those who have met the academic standards and the grades and tests in high school to make sure they've got what it takes to complete their education, versus continuing to put a lot of money into the pockets of students who simply can't make the grade in college any better than they did in high school. I think that's going to be a challenge.
Busy year in 2010. Steve Gill, Brenda Gilmore, appreciate very much your insight. Stay with us as we continues in a moment.